Hey folks, I'm Dave Isaacs, and it's time for another informal lesson out here in the carport. Today we're going to take a look at a blues classic, Smokestack Lightning by Howlin' Wolf. The riff is credited to Wolf's longtime guitarist, Hubert Sumlin. And I'm going to link a video in the description of him demonstrating this song in a Homespun Tapes lesson from probably back in the 80s. But it's fantastic to watch him. And I'm just going to walk you through the primary riff with one of the variations. On the original recording, there are two guitars playing almost the same thing. There are times when they harmonize, there are times when they trade. So here's what we're looking at. 1, 2, 3. Now, you notice right away, we've got a thumping thumb keeping time on the bottom. I am using a thumb pick. That is my preference these days when playing on steel string or electric guitar, fingerstyle. You're certainly not obligated to. And you will find when you explore this technique that a lot of the old blues players use simply thumb and index finger. I'm using primarily thumb and middle. And when we play a double stop, as I do here, I am using two fingers, index and middle, to pluck the second and first strings. And then in this leg, I am using index for the third string, middle for the second string. We'll dig deeper into that in a second. So here's the riff without the bass. Really, you could play the tune pick style with limited bass and it still works just fine. But it's just not as cool. And aside from that, this is the style, and it's worth knowing, if only for the reason that when you develop the independence between your picking hand, thumb, and fingers, it opens up a whole world for you because you can start thinking like a piano player with two hands playing bass and treble. It essentially is the same idea. Your thumb is in the bass register, your fingers are in the treble register of the chords. Here's the riff without the bass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Starting on an off beat, or rather on the second beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Open E. Now I'm playing a double stop here because I mentioned that there's two guitar parts on the recording, and sometimes they land together on the D and the G, and sometimes they don't. So playing it alone, we might as well play them both. 2, 3. Now I'm using two fingers, index, middle of the right hand to pluck the double stop. And I want to point out the basic technique here. We really do have to spread out the thumb and the fingers. So it does help to really extend the thumb. This is again another reason I like the thumb pick, because it tends to force this position. And to drop the hand a little bit, so notice the shape of my hand. This is not classical technique here. Classical, you tend to look more like this, and we could do it like that. My finger, my index finger, doesn't really want to go here very happily unless I give it a little help by rotating the hand. Now we could even play that double stop with the index alone and just pull back through those two strings. So notice the thumb is really working from the thumb pick, yes, but from our perspective, it's just the rounded edge of the thumb, and we are rolling off the string. We might be thumping down here. It's palm muted against the base of the palm. If you don't know how to do that, this is definitely something you should know. I'm letting the heel of my hand sit right where the string meets the saddle, so we can make the string thump. But even so, remember that a guitar string is a cylinder, right? It's rounded. So we're just rolling off it, letting the pad of the thumb move towards the floor, while the curled fingers, even if they're extended, they're a little bit curled, at least from the middle segment, middle joint, to the tip. And when I pluck, it's either pull straight back with a rest stroke, where the finger keeps basically the same shape and you rest on the next string, or more of a free stroke that involves just the first half of the finger, moving basically from this middle joint. So, to some degree, especially because of the palm mute, there is a certain amount of this in the fingers, pulling up and away, which is something that I ordinarily don't recommend, but this is a stylistic thing, and as long as your pull away is not so dramatic that it's making you lose the strings, I think it's really okay. All right, now things get real interesting. Notice that we're starting off with things basically going together on the beat. 1, together, double stop, and then 4th beat bass note. 1, 2, 3, 4. But here's where things, as I said, get interesting. We syncopate in the bass. So let's take this apart. So far, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So I'm just going to play this. So let's get the second half of the lick. Index and middle of the fretting hand. I'm landing the middle finger on fret 2 of the G. Slide up in time with the shuffle. Bottom. Index finger comes in for the 3rd fret 2nd string. You're probably familiar with this 2-finger partial E7. It's in thousands of blues songs. But notice this, when I move the middle finger back to A on the 2nd fret, this slide is not timed. This is a grace note of no time value of its own, just using it as an approach. So the count of that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4. So middle finger slides in time, jumps back. Now that timing is 1, 2, 3, 4. Our syncopated bass is doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see how this lines up. There is a tab if you'd like to follow along. It's linked in the description. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So look at how this lines up. We've looked at the first half. Bass, together, 3, 4, and. So we need to grab this 3rd string note on the end of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slide it on up in time, and we do not need to hit the bass string again because we're leaving off the downbeat. We're articulating the downbeat with the slide, not with the thumb. So listen to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4, and. So if we're looking at when things are together and when they aren't, thumb alone, together, together, thumb, and then together. Now, as I said, we're treating this arrival, well, this arrival is the downbeat. So it's 1, 2. We've established that our bass note comes back in on beat 2. 1, 2, and we're gonna hit 2 bass notes because it's 2 and. 2, and then 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, and then we're gonna follow that 2nd bass note with 3, 4, 1. Notice, hammer on, we could play there, or just, so the whole lick is 2, 3, 4. Notice the very slight bend, really a quarter tone, not even, It's just a flavor bend. The whole idea is just so we hear the note move a little bit, so it's not static. Now you could just play. That's cool too, and I think that bend actually sounds a little better when it's just the G, but both together sounds good too. Here's a variation that you hear the other guitar doing, or it's hard to say who's doing exactly what at any given moment, but watch this. 3, 4. This simply means 1, 2, jump right on up to fret 5 of the B string, and then a quick grace note sort of smear slide. And we want to play that up. And then the rest is the same. So I'm going to mix them up a little. Some of the time playing one note and sometimes the double stop. I'm basically following the tab that's linked in the video description. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's really the whole song. The song is just this hypnotic vamp on E7. You want to play rhythm on this? You could just play an E7 chord here with 2 fingers, 3 fingers. How you actually articulate that depends on the sound you're going for. But if somebody else were playing the riff, I might just comp. I want to feel that sense of stomp, like we're not in 4, we're really just in 1, thump, thump. But a little sense of backbeat isn't bad. Because on a drum kit, you would have kick, snare, kick, snare. It's a really cool song to play. It definitely takes some practicing to get this coordinated with that syncopated bass, but it is definitely a great skill to have, and so much of this music really requires a good, strong independence between, well, really, finger picking of any kind. To do it well requires independence between the fingers and the thumb. Very much, as I said before, like the piano player's 2 hands. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. This was a lot of fun for me. I've been enjoying this deep dive into the blues. I will see you next time. I'm Dave Isaacs. Thanks for watching.